Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondent Club of Japan. My name is Pio D'Emilia, and I'm emceeing today. This is yet another occasion to take up a very delicate and dramatic issue that concerns Japan, among others. This is about children, about abduction. I know that in Japan many people don't like the idea to use the name Rachi, but this is actually what is happening for many kids, many minors. Not only, another thing is important, is this is not an issue concerning only international marriages, but it's also a local, national issues, since for various reasons, including cultural reasons, in Japan, joint custody is not recognized, is not used, not practiced, and when separation or divorce happens, most of the time kids goes, willingly or not, with one of the parents. Even if they are abducted, after that it's very difficult for the left out parent to access to them. There have been many cases, isolated individuals. We have in this room here Tamayo, who is just back from Europe, where he introduced his case to the European Parliament. By the way, the European Parliament has decided to put this issue officially into the complaints against the Japanese government in the framework of the European Partnership, EU-Japan Partnership Economical Agreement. And now we have, for the first time, a class action, which is a news in Japan anyway, because not so many class action. The concept itself of class action is not very common yet. But here we have three people, including a lawyer, that will explain us why and how this issue will be brought up as a class action against the Japanese government, if I'm not wrong, right? The issue is against the Japanese government. Okay, so without any more, yes, actually, I wanted to explain to everybody, including for our viewers on the internet, that the reason why I'm wearing this mask is not because I think it is compulsory or necessarily, but I think that in this situation in Japan, especially when we are in public places, it could help to prevent contagions. So I wish and I suggest that everybody who stays in a public place with other people wear a mask. Okay, so from my right side, this is a representative of the plaintiffs. Actually, he's the originating person, the guy that had the idea. For his personal reasons, he doesn't want to give his name and place of work. We accept this, of course. Then we have Parental Henderson, who is also a plaintiff, and it's a woman, as you can see. And that means that this is not the issue regarding only women kidnapping their kids, but also fathers. And then we have lawyer Tamayo Omura, who is the lawyer of this case, and that will actually start with her presentation. Please.
弁護士の大村珠代と申します。この連れ去り違憲訴訟の共同代理人をしております。本日は皆様の貴重なお時間を頂戴し、どうもありがとうございます。
So good afternoon. My name is Tamayo Omura. As introduced, I am one of the attorneys in the litigation on behalf of the plaintiffs in this class action calling that parental child abduction is indeed unconstitutional. Thank you very much for sharing your time today.
日本の司法は連れ去りがちです。 日本はこの連れ去りを防止する立法義務があるのに、これを怠っています。私たちは訴訟でこのことを訴えます。
So in Japan, there is a jurisdictional or legal tendency for parental-child abduction. And however, despite the fact that Japan has a legislative obligation to prevent this from occurring, Japan is neglecting this responsibility. Therefore, we have decided to take this to the courts.
第一に、一方の配偶者が他方の承諾を得ないで子どもを連れ去ることは、日本では刑事上犯罪とされていません。第二に、看護者や親権者を決める際に、子を連れ去った親を民事上不利に扱う制裁規定はありません。裁判所は継続性の原則により、連れ去った親を看護者、親権者に指定します。
So first of all, in Japan, a case where one spouse was to, without the consent of the other spouse, abduct the child or take the child away from one of the spouses, this is not actually held as a criminal offense in Japan. Secondly, at the time of deciding the physical or custodial rights of the child as well, there is also a civil disadvantage against the parent, there is, no disadvantage against the parent who has abducted the child. In the case of the courts, based on the so-called principle of continuity, the parent or the guardian who has taken away the child, who has abducted the child, is usually set as the person with custody.
日本にはフレンドリーペアレントルールのような親権を付与する基準もありません。
In Japan, there is also no such norm or standard such as the friendly parent rule, which is used to contribute to establishing custody.
第3に、親権の行使について父母の意見が一致しない場合の手続き規定がありません。
And the third significant point is also in regards to the use of the right to custody. In the situation where the opinions of the two parents, the mother and the father, do not match, there is also no procedural regulations in place.
この3つの法の献決により、日本ではこの連れ去りが横行しています。
As a result of these three particular faults or pieces of lacking within the Japanese law, this means that there are many cases of parental-child abduction.
日本は離婚後単独親権の国ですから、親権者となれなかった親は子どもの養育に関わることができなくなります。連れ去った親が嫌だと言えば我が子に会うこともできない。そして片親阻害により連れ去られた親は子どもの心からも消されてしまいます。これが連れ去りがちです。
As Japan is a country which has single custody after divorce, the parent who is not given custody of the child is also no longer able to be involved in the raising of the child as well. If the parent who has abducted the child would be or were to say no, then the other parent is no longer able to even meet with the child in most cases. Through such exclusion of one of the parents, this means that, well, the parent from whom the child has been abducted is pretty much erased even from the heart of the child, and this is what leads to this ongoing issue of parental-child abduction.
この連れ去りは子を連れ去られた親と何より子どもの人権を侵害する行為です。
And this parental-child abduction is, of course, a violation of the human rights of the parent from whom the child is taken. But even more than this, it is also a serious violation of the human rights of the child.
日本は2013年に国際的なこの奪取の民事上の側面に関する条約、いわゆるハーグ条約を批准しました。日本はハーグ条約上の不法な連れ去りだとして他国に対しこの返還請求をしています。日本は国内と国外とでダブルスタンダードを使い分けています。
In 2013, Japan ratified the so-called Hague Convention, or the Convention on the Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction. And based on the Hague Convention, Japan is also, for example, calling upon other countries for the return of children under illegal parental child abduction rules according to this convention. However, domestically and internationally, Japan is utilizing a double standard in regards to this.
日本はハーグ条約の内容に合わせて国内法を整備する立法義務があります。
Japan has a legislative obligation to prepare full domestic law also in alignment with the Hague Convention.
日本は1994年に児童の権利に関する条約を批准しています。日本は国連の子どもの権利委員会から国内法をハーグ条約と調和させることや共同親権を認める法改正をするよう勧告を受けました。国にはこの連れ去りを防止する立法義務があります。
Japan also in 1994 ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child. From the UN Commission on the Rights of the Child, Japan has been receiving several advisories saying that it needs to bring its domestic law also in line with the Hague Convention, and it also needs to amend its legislation in order to allow joint custody of children as well. There is this legal obligation also for Japan to prevent parental child abduction.
私たちのゴールは国がこの連れ去りを防止する法律を制定することです。
Our goal is for Japan as a country to establish laws which will prevent parental child abduction.
子供がパパ、ママからも引き離されず、愛されて成長できる日本へ、これが私たちの願いです。
We believe that, or our wish, our desire is for Japan to become a country where children can grow up being loved and being nurtured and being able to be not taken away from either their father or their mother.
ご清聴ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go to Mr. X.
Yes.
Please go ahead with your presentation.
Yes, yes, good afternoon. I'm representing the plaintiffs, and briefly I would like to explain my case and other plaintiffs' cases also. And firstly, let me explain my case. So one day on a Saturday morning, I had an argument with my wife, and then I went out for the gym to cool down, and when I came back from a gym for after 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 hours, and my wife and kids are gone, and they went to the her parents' house, and I thought they are coming back maybe tomorrow, Sunday, or maybe Monday, and I got a message from my wife on a Saturday evening. So I'm going to stay at my parents' house tonight. And since then, they never came home. So this is for 2 years. And it took 3 months to see my kids since child abduction. And it takes like 6 months to reach an agreement on visitation. And now I'm seeing my kids just only once in a month. Only 7 hours, and also I'm claiming I want to see my kids, but my wife said no. I'm busy. I can't see you can't see my kids anymore any longer. So this is my situation. So it's very so if child is abducted by other parents, so it's very hard to see kids frequently, or it's hard sometimes to see the kids, not very often. So next case, I would like to explain other plaintiff's cases. So some people, some person, suppose took a huge money out of the my husband's account and take with kids, and they're gone. And also some cases of other plaintiffs. Also, they are after came back from the work, also kids and the wife is gone also. And also the second issue is about intervention of lawyers. Also, before or after this child abduction, also often lawyers intervene in these cases, and they are also inducing or suggesting to abduct the kids. And the next issue is about visitation. So, since your child is abducted, so it's very hard to see. Only court allows only once in a month, only 2 or 3 months. Or some cases they don't allow to see kids directly, or just sending pictures, or just that's all. And also issue is about co-family courts. So they allow their abduction. Also they don't. They're just okay. This is not against the law. They just say this is lawful. And these are, I think, is for the child abduction issues. Just I want to explain.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, we will have time to ask him more questions about the individual case. And now let's hear from Catherine Henderson from Australia. She has been living here 25 years?
17.
17,
yep.
Married for as long? And since 2 years?
Last year.
Last year, sorry. Since last year, she has this very serious and dramatic issue that she will talk about. Please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Catherine, and I'm a high school teacher from Melbourne, Australia. And I actually met my husband in Melbourne, and we lived there together for 6 years before moving to Tokyo 17 years ago, as mentioned. We have 2 lovely children. My daughter is 15, and as a matter of fact, tomorrow will be my son's 11th birthday. I've always had a really good relationship with both of my children. I'm proud of them, and I love them very much. We've always spent a lot of time in Australia every year. In November last year, the newly appointed Justice Minister, Masako Mori, stated that human rights and protecting children would be the focal point of her tenure. I joined this class action with other Japanese parents because I believe that the Japanese justice system isn't currently functioning to protect the human rights of children whose parents are divorcing. On the contrary, I believe the present system actually rewards people who are doing serious harm to children. On our 15th wedding anniversary, when we went out for dinner, in the middle of the meal, my husband told me that he wanted a divorce. I was totally blindsided. 3 months later, he presented me with a mutual consent document and a signed rikontodoke, or divorce document, promising me custody of the children. I didn't submit those documents, hoping that he would change his mind about the divorce. 2 months later, he moved out of our home without warning. 2 months later, he moved out of our home without warning, and then another 2 months later, he unexpectedly moved back into our home. Under Australian family law, children have the right to enjoy a meaningful relationship with both parents and to be protected. All parents, regardless of their marital status or their relationship status, have equal shared parental responsibility of the children until they are 18 years old. They are guaranteed substantial and significant time with their children by law, provided that there is no chance of harm. So this is why, during the time that he lived apart from us, I allowed and encouraged my husband to meet the children as often as he liked, which usually ended up being about 3 times a week. In contrast, from the day that he moved back into our home, my husband made my life as miserable as possible. He repeatedly told me to leave Japan, go back to Australia. He asked our children to report to him what I had said and what I had done, and said negative things about me every day. Slowly, over time, this started to have an impact on the children's relationship with me. He openly told our children that they didn't need to listen or speak to me. He spoke to me rudely, used difficult Japanese instead of our usual English, and started calling me omae, instead of my name, even though I told him that I didn't like it. He smiled and encouraged the children when they were rude to me. All of the routines that we had as a family crumbled. I suffered, keeping some kind of stability in the home and making sure that my children were healthy and safe. I started a mediation process in the family court to create a parenting plan, shared agreements that would benefit the children and provide stability for them. This is quite normal in Australia. My husband wouldn't agree to most of the items required to make a reasonable parenting plan, and unfortunately the mediators were unable to provide much help. Parental alienation is when a child becomes emotionally cut off and ultimately rejects a parent as the result of the psychological manipulation of the other parent or some other relative. It's a situation that arises due to an imbalance of power within the family. It's a form of family violence that has been recognised by the World Health Organization. In order to reduce or prevent the well-documented damage of parental alienation on children, Governments need to step in to rebalance the power. Unfortunately, in my experience, and in the experience of many other of the parents that I'm in contact with, the exact opposite happens in the Japanese family court system. If you had told me a few years ago that it was possible for one parent to turn the children against the other parent in this way, I would never have believed it. I was unable to get any form of assistance to deal with the unfounded fear, disrespect and hostility towards me that was happening in my own home. In the August, I went to Australia alone, as my husband didn't allow the children to come with me, to visit my father, who is suffering from Alzheimer's disease. When I was there, my husband sent me emails from his parents' house saying that the children wanted us to divorce and for me to move out. This is not the natural desire of children who love both of their parents. Things were even worse when I got back. My husband didn't allow me to eat dinner with the family anymore. I wasn't allowed to enter the children's bedroom. The children's father would take them out of the house without even saying goodbye, and they didn't let me know where they were going and when they would be back. My presence wasn't acknowledged by them a lot of the time. When they did speak to me, they were rude and dismissive, as my husband rewarded them for this type of behaviour. When I entered a room, my husband would stand up and leave, and they were expected to follow him. I was portrayed as selfish and annoying. I felt unwelcome in my own home. No matter how bad he made it for me, I was going to stay for the children's sake. I will never abandon my children. My husband filed for divorce 6 months after moving back into our home. That process is still ongoing. In fact, I was in court this morning. I had no idea that in Japan, the rights of children to see both parents are not upheld by the family court. On the 16th of April last year, our children and almost all of the furniture in our house was gone when I came home from work. My home was literally stripped bare. My husband had taken what he wanted. My lawyers told me that there was nothing I could do and there was no point going to the police to report it. Despite the fact that we were at that very time discussing financial separation, there was no penalty. What was worse, however, is that it became clear that the minute my husband abducted our children, he had almost certainly guaranteed that he would be awarded custody. I instantly felt the loss of our children and our shared life as a family. It is inconceivable that there are no penalties in Japan for a parent who takes the law into their own hands during an ongoing court case. My husband took joint belongings, as well as our children, in order to secure custody through the principle of continuity mentioned earlier, a principle which has no legal basis. This is in direct contrast to the various laws and treaties that Japan has made and ratified that are designed to prevent exactly this from happening. Both Japan and Australia are signatories to the Convention on the Rights of the Child. All of this is quite difficult to comprehend. As time went on, I met other parents of many nationalities, people from Canada, Europe, America, other countries. As I heard their stories, the same patterns kept emerging. I began to lose faith in the Japanese family court to make custody decisions based on any other factor other than who had abducted the children. Just last weekend, a large feature article was published in the Good Weekend magazine, which is published by the Sydney Morning Herald in Australia, featuring my stories as well as the stories of other left-behind parents, including my friend Scott McIntyre, who's here today, who was recently detained here in Tokyo for trying to find his abducted children. Australians cannot believe in Japan it's so difficult for parents and children to spend time together following relationship breakdown. In the European Parliament 1 week ago, when discussing parental abduction in Japan, it was stated that culture or tradition was not an excuse to violate the rights of children. It doesn't have to be this way. I want to believe that justice will be found in Japan for my family and the other families currently suffering under this system. The government must do everything in its power to ensure that Japanese children's rights are protected. It's been 10 months and no opportunity has been provided for me to spend time with our children. My family is gone. Our children have lost their home, their mother, and their Australian family. Children should not be separated from their loving relatives for no reason. It's time for Japan to solve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Now let's go to the floor for the questions. But before that, I think we need some data that probably I missed. It's my fault. Can probably the lawyer say us how many plaintiffs do you have on this class action? Because that's an information.
Yeah, there are 14.
14?
Yes.
Okay, and they are all Japanese and foreigners mixed up?
All Japanese, sorry.
All
Sorry.
Mixed, 13 is Japanese.
And she's the only. Okay.
Yes.
And is it still open to join? I mean, if there are other, they can still join from now?
第二次訴訟すみません。私たちは第二次訴訟の提起も考えています。原告になりたいというご希望される方が多数いらっしゃるようであれば、第二次訴訟の提起も検討する予定でございます。
So we are also considering to submit a second suit. So if there are multiple other people who would like to join as plaintiffs as well, we are considering this as the next step also. So they would be welcome to.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's start with the questions. The working press first, and then other people can also ask questions. Please raise your hand and state your name and affiliation if you've got one. Okay, go ahead. At the microphone there.
ここから質疑応答に入りますが、まずワーキングプレスの方からお願いします。
Which language is better, English or Japanese or French?
Maybe French.
English, okay. First of all, I'm a little bit sad to see that I'm probably the only working press here. I hope so many people are busy with coronavirus, but I hope they are watching the video on the internet. So I'm Karine Nishimura from Agence France Presse. And I have a couple of questions regarding the class action itself, as well as a question to plaintiff here. First question, you said that 14 people joined this class action at this time, mainly Japanese people. Why other foreigner people didn't join the class action at this time, as there are a lot of cases of foreign people?
はい、他に外国の方もご希望される方はいらっしゃいましたが、この訴訟をできるだけ早く提起するために先にお申し込みがあった方で先に提訴をしております。
So there were several other foreign nationals who did indicate that they were interested in joining this case, but we wanted to also move it through the courts as fast as possible. Therefore, we went ahead with the first people who did submit their request to be part of this class action as this first step.
Second question. There are a lot of Japanese cases also. This time you have 13 people joining this class action among Japanese people. But how do you explain that it's probably the first time that a class action is done? And also, how do you explain the fact that Japanese, mainly men, don't take any action against this case, and they simply accept not to see their children anymore?
はい、これはあくまで私の推測考えですけれども、日本の社会が変わってきたことによると思います。日本は男性社会でしたけれども、女性の進出が進んでいって、で現在では男性も家事を一緒に分担する、その中で育児も分担するようになってきています。一昔前の男性であればものすごく猛烈に働くことを要求されていましたから、子供を育てたい、一緒に養育に関わりたいと思っても社会がそれを許さないような状況にあったと思います。今は社会も 一緒に子育てすることを進めていますから、その意味で、男性も社会的に子育てに関わることができるようになってきましたし、実際にそうされている男性が増えてきた。その中でこうした訴えをされる方が増えてきたんだと思います。
So first of all, I think this is perhaps my personal opinion or guess as to the reason for this, but I believe that, well, the recent changes in Japanese society are a significant part of this. Japanese society was traditionally much more male-dominated, male-centered, and the role of women, however, in recent years has started to become more prominent. Women have been able to be more active broadly in society as well. This has also meant that men in Japan have been able to become more involved in household chores or also raising children as well. It used to be that they were expected just to be working hard outside the home. So even if they wanted to be more involved in rearing their children, raising children, this wasn't societally acceptable. However, now that this has become more and more acceptable within the broader society, this means that men are also more able to take an active role in the family, meaning that they have also started to, for example, take action in these kinds of suits as well, rather than just accepting what was being told.
But even if you have 13 people joining this class action, Japanese people, it's still a few number compared to the number of cases we can see every year. So, do you think that you really can change something with only 13 people? Or do you hope these 13 people will be strong enough to make the other parents, the other Japanese men in the same situation to also voice more broadly to give the children the opportunity to see their both parents?
両方だと思っています。まず私たちがこの訴訟を提起したのは、あまりにこの問題が日本人自身が知らない問題であるということです。実際に当事者になってみないと、日本の司法の現状を知らない人が多すぎます。ですのでこの訴訟によってこの連れ去りの問題ということを広く日本の社会に知ってもらいたいと思っています。
I believe that both of those factors are indeed at hand. One of the first reasons for us to go ahead with this suit actually is that we believe that this issue is not, there is not enough awareness about this issue broadly within Japanese society as well. Many people in Japan do not become aware actually of these kind of judicial issues unless they actually become directly impacted or directly involved in them. Therefore, we wanted this issue to be much more broadly known within Japanese society. Therefore, we decided to go ahead with this case.
それと先ほどこの人数で社会を変えられることができると思いますかというご質問でしたが、この問題は本当に連れ去られた親と子どもに対する重大な人権侵害です。これは侵害された人の人数にかかわらず是正されなければならない問題ですので、13人であっても私たちは子どもの権利を守るために社会を変えていきたいというふうに思っています。
And as for the question as to whether we believe that it is indeed possible to make a change with only these numbers, we believe that this is a very serious human rights violation for the parents whose children have been abducted, but also for the children themselves. Therefore, regardless of the numbers, this is an issue which is very serious and does need to be resolved for the sake of protecting the human rights of the children and for the future also.
This month, in the beginning of this month, I went in France and I had the opportunity to attend a session at the French Parliament, the upper chamber of the French Parliament, and there was a special session on Japanese and French abduction problem, and a resolution has been voted at the French Parliament. And a lot of people spoke about this. A lot of parliamentarians spoke about this situation, and they had some huge knowledge about the situation. I was surprised, but it was a good thing to be surprised by that, because it means that the problem in France is known and they want to act to solve this problem. What can you get from foreign political action against this problem? And do you think that Japanese government as well as Japanese parliamentary can also change because of political action abroad.
海外での政治的な行動によって日本政府または日本の国会が変わることはありますでしょうか。
それも期待しています。
We have hope that it will.
So, 具体的に何か、for example, are you in touch with some of these people in France who are trying to urge?
はい、実際に日本にいらっしゃるフランスの国外のフランス人の方のための議員さんとお会いして、この連れ去り訴訟の違憲訴訟をしますというお話をさせていただいております。で、私たちが持っている日本の国の態度に対する疑問をお伝えしていますので、それについて調査していただいて、私たちの考えが正しいのであれば、何かフランスとしても何か動いてほしいということはお願いしております。
So yes, we are in cooperation or collaboration with French parents in Japan, but also with some French parliamentary members who have visited Japan and so on to learn about this issue. We have shared with them various facts about our understanding and concerns about this issue as well, and asked them to also have further investigation of the situation in Japan, and to see if indeed the position which we are holding in regards to this is accurate, then to also call for them to join us in taking action in regards to this.
So I have two questions for both plaintiffs. I'm the only one, so I keep the mic.
Just a moment, let's check this.
Yes.
Is there anybody else who wants to ask questions of the working press? Because I'm glad to let her doing the shikai, but if there is anybody else, you should have priority now. No? Okay, go ahead.
So, question for the two plaintiffs. So, as a Japanese man, you take an action, it's not so frequent. So do you hope to call other Japanese people in the same situation than you to join this class action? And do you think there is a risk for you to do a presser and to say that you are joining a class action on this matter?
So I think just this is 14 plaintiffs. So I think for just theoretically just one plaintiff can with a lawyer can sue the government and win the judgment, and they can maybe ask directly to change the laws. I think it's only one person can change the law, and I think the government and the society. I think.
Okay.
Catherine,
yes.
I already heard your story, but I am happy to have the opportunity to ask again other question. What is the reason why your husband left the house? Do you have an idea? In many cases, the people who kidnap the children talk about domestic violence, and it's difficult in this case to have the justice acting for the left parent. So, what is the reason in your case?
Well, obviously, it's something I've thought a lot about. So as I mentioned in the speech, he left the house in October. He said he wanted the divorce in October. He actually left the house in February. Again, I just came home from work and he was gone with no warning. So he was gone for about 7 weeks from the house, and at that time he told me that the children were going to stay with me and I would have custody. I imagine in the time that he was out of the house he went and saw a lawyer, and I imagine that the lawyer possibly pointed out to him, because of the lack of joint custody in Japan, if I was to receive custody I would be able to take the children back to Australia without his permission. So I think that perhaps he realised that he was giving me all of the power, and he perhaps, unfortunately, the power isn't jointly shared between both parents. So I think perhaps he realised that perhaps he'd made a mistake, and I believe on his lawyer's advice he returned back home to make sure that that didn't happen.
And in your case, did your wife talk about domestic violence also to
Yes. I mean, it's kind of a false domestic violence. So I think I hear many cases a wife is claiming about the false domestic violence because there's no other reasons to abduct children. So they tend to claim the false domestic violence because it's very easy for the family court to accept these claims. I mean, without the evidence, family court they accepted. I mean, mostly the wife's false domestic violence claims.
So I have a last question for the lawyer. In case of domestic violence, a wife or an husband claiming domestic violence, is there a police investigation to prove it has been or not domestic violence?
日本でしっかり証拠に基づいてどれだけ警察で捜査してくれているのかというのは疑問に思っています。女性が被害に遭ったというだけで被害届として受け入れられて、それでDV があったということがそのまま事実かのように、まかり通ってしまっている現状があると思います。
So I would indeed raise questions about whether police investigations are sufficiently conducted in these kinds of cases in Japan, particularly investigations which are based on evidence. It is usually the case where if a woman appeals and says that they were the victim of domestic violence and submits what is known as the higai todoke or the report of victimization, then that is indeed taken as fact and held to be the truth.
So, as I understand, joint custody is one part of the solution, but not all the solution, because in the case of domestic violence, joint custody won't be recognized, so they have also to have better procedure to prove that there was or not domestic violence. I am right? I am right?
もちろんその通りだと思います。
Yes, that's right.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Just a moment. You're not working press. Let me just ask a few questions and then we'll come there. First, to the lawyer, I would like to ask when the the hearing is due. I understand that 26th or tomorrow? In the court tomorrow? And what do you expect from the court? And another thing which is not very clear to me, so I suppose to anybody else, is what are you looking for? I mean, this is a civil suit or criminal one, and what do you are asking to the judge? What is the rule you are looking for?
裁判で形式上は民事上の裁判、国に対する損害賠償請求ですけれども、実質的に私たちが求めているのは、国がこの連れ去りを防止するための法律を制定することです。
Technically, this is a civil court case against the state of Japan, and it is seeking, on paper, it is seeking damages from the country in regards to this, but what we are really seeking is a change in the legislation in Japan about parental child abduction.
Sorry if I insist on this, but to my knowledge, a court can rule on damages, but certainly cannot rule on political issues. I don't, maybe here we have our representative of a parliament, maybe he could answer on this, but a Japanese court, any court, cannot possibly oblige the parliament to change the law. It could suggest, but certainly cannot rule on that. So, are you looking for a political or social signal to the political world in order to have this?
もちろん政治的、社会的なメッセージを求めていますけれども、この問題は、先ほども申し上げたように、連れ去られた親と子どもに対する重大な人権侵害ですから、これは 憲法に反する問題です。ですので、違憲だということになれば、国は当然その具体的な立法をしていく義務があると考えています。その意味ですごい非常に限られた難しい裁判ですけれども、国が立法しなければならないということを明確に訴えて、国が立法するように、私たちは働きかけていきたいと思っています。
Of course, one large element is that we are seeking a political and social message in regards to this as well. But as I mentioned, this is indeed a serious human rights violation against the children and against also the parents whose children have been abducted. Therefore, within the court case, we are also appealing that this is unconstitutional. And if indeed the court is to rule that this is unconstitutional, then that means that there is an obligation on the Japanese government, on the Japanese parliament, to take legal action or make legal steps in regards to this as well. While the court case itself may be limited in some respects, we believe that if we are able to bring up this constitutional aspect, this can also be a way to have an impact on the judiciary in Japan as well.
Okay. Then I have a question for the gentleman here. Can you tell us the reason why you don't want to be identified? You know, just if you want to tell it, because I guess in the suit your name is there, so we can easily find out.
It's lawsuit is documents. It's our plaintiff's name is concealed.
Even
Yes.
in the press.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, let's go to Tommaso. Tommaso is one of the fathers that have first raised the issue here at the club, and he just returned from Europe, from Brussels, where he were able to introduce this issue in front of the European Parliament. Is this a question or a
two
statement?
questions, one for the lawyer and one for the parents.
Okay.
First, for the lawyer, I was also part of a class action with the Ueno lawyer and some other firm, ruling last year in November by judge named Tatsuro Maezawa, said that in Japan, Children Rights Convention, that the UNCRC, is not binding for Japanese constitution. So my question is, how do you think you can get something out of your lawsuit, knowing that the opinion of Japanese courts is that international agreement are not binding with Japanese constitution?
日本の憲法上、条約を、守らなければならないという条項がございます。確かに日本の裁判では条約について、なかなか裁判官はそこに、思いを馳せないところがありますけれども、ただ憲法の判断をするときにそういった条約が存在している、それは事実として動かせないことですので、それを憲法判断をするときに考慮にするということまでは裁判所はやっています。私たちはそれに基づいて、児童の権利に関する条約に違反していることだということも訴えています。
So first of all, within the Japanese constitution, there is indeed a mention that Japan has a responsibility to obey international conventions as well. However, there is indeed, as you have mentioned, the case where it is often very rare for judges within the Japanese court system to perhaps go that far when it's looking at the relationship with the Japanese constitution as well. However, this does exist within the constitution. This is something that we have considered in putting together our court appeal, our court case, and we have included this within what we have submitted to the court.
Thank you. My question for the parents here is, I assume you both work. Catherine mentioned that she works in a school, so she has responsibility to teach every day and be in touch with kids. And I also know that among the plaintiffs of this lawsuit, there's also a brain surgeon, so a person that has to be very focused every day on his job. So how has this situation influenced your professional situation every day? Can you 100% be focused when you work, or this situation has taken away energies from you and you cannot deliver a performance? Because you're living in a country where working for a company is more important than living. So I think is a very important point to leverage here in Japan. Thank you.
そのポイントについてお願いします。
All right. Well, for me personally, I have been fortunate in one regard, which is that my school has been very, very supportive. I've been open with them and I've kept giving them updates about what's happening. It is difficult. There have been times even just catching the train to work. There was a situation a few months ago and a young lady just touched her son's head on the train in front of me, and I started crying on the train. And I contacted my boss and I said, I'm on the school grounds, but I can't come in, I'm crying, I'm not in a condition to work. And fortunately, they were able to cover my class, and some of my colleagues came riding over on bicycles and supported me until I felt better. Another time, my son's photo somehow popped up on my computer screen just as I was about to go to class. So that was really, really difficult. But I've just been open about the situation. I don't think I've got anything to be embarrassed or ashamed about, and my colleagues have been fantastic. Obviously, teachers work with children and they understand and they know how difficult it can be, so they're really supportive of me, and I really appreciate their support. And I've got a lot of friends and family in Australia as well. My sister and my mother have been very supportive, but a large range of people who have known me. Because when I was going through the alienation, my husband was telling things to the children about me that wasn't true. So you can lose your sense of self quite easily going through that situation. So friends that have been friends of mine since I was in school, who would constantly talk to me and reflect back to me who they knew me to be and to remind me who I was, were really, really important. And it's really challenging. But I think it's really important to ask for help and to let people know when you're having troubles. And that's what I've been able to cope so far.
Are you teaching at the Japanese school or foreign school?
Japanese school.
Okay.
Just briefly explain. I had a hard time for initial 6 months after. Since the child has been abducted. So in terms of mentally and also physically. So I couldn't eat much. I couldn't sleep because I woke up at night many times. But I think after seeing my daughter, after reaching a consensus on the visitation, I think just a little bit my mental health is now stable now a little bit. Yes.
Okay, Scott. And take this occasion to update us on your case. I can see that you are still a free person.
No, I've had no updates. I actually spent many days this week at the local government office trying to obtain information about my children unsuccessfully. I want to thank you for bringing this case. You called this a human rights violation. I call it human rights terrorism. That any judge that doesn't uphold children's rights is a terrorist. The police who refuse to investigate child abduction as they're required to under Japanese law are also terrorists against human rights. Lawyers who advise people in these cases are also terrorists against human rights.
Okay, Scott, come to the question.
In the European Parliament last week, we heard it described as genocide. This issue is causing great damage to Japan's reputation internationally. There have been calls for trade bans, for visa bans against Japan. What kind of impact do you think Japan's ongoing failure to prevent child abduction is doing to Japan's international reputation? And what kind of damage can it do in other aspects financially? We hear many people saying they no longer want to visit Japan. Tourism can suffer, the economy can suffer. How do you see the damage that this issue is doing to Japan internationally?
今スコットさんがおっしゃったように日本には大きなダメージがあると思います。人権を守らない国として条約を守らない国として国際的な評判を落とす信用を失う可能性がもちろんありますし、こう連れ去られた国の方にとっては日本を好ましい 有効な国とは思えない、そういうふうに思われていくと思います。その意味で国益を失うことはすごく大きいと思います。
I think, as Scott has mentioned, this is indeed having a very significant damage upon Japan, being that other countries are losing faith in seeing Japan as a country which does not uphold or protect human rights and which does not also obey international law, international conventions as well. Further, particularly for those countries from which there are parents whose children have been abducted, this means that Japan is really seen in the light of a country in a very negative situation, a country which is not fulfilling these obligations as well. Therefore, I believe that this is indeed having a significant impact or damage on Japanese national interest.
Okay, I think we have about reached the time. Let me ask you just one last question, Catherine. In your case, if I well understood, your eldest daughter is 15 years old?
Yes, mine.
Okay. I guess nowadays a 15-year-old person has free access to the internet, to the phones. I mean, I guess she has a Keitai. Did you try to contact her, of course? Is she answering you? Is she calling you on her own will? Do you think her father is, somehow prohibiting her to get in touch with you? I mean, I can understand the case of the gentleman here, 5 years old, small kids, but when you start to be middle, high school, especially in Japan, you have a lot of chances to access. So, can you explain this?
As I mentioned in my speech, I would never have believed it was possible for one parent to turn a child against another parent to the degree that it's happened in my own home. My husband, it took him a year, and it was a small gradual process that happened gradually over time. And yeah, as you say, basically my children were rewarded by their father for being rude to me, ignoring me, whatever. And over time, and as I said, it took a year, apparently the most vulnerable age for parental alienation is 11 to 14, and both of my children were kind of in that zone. And over time, he was successful in having both of my children think that I was dangerous and that I was scary and that I was mentally unstable. And obviously, this was exacerbated by the fact that whilst I was going through the alienation, which was really difficult, there were times when I got upset, righteously so, and there were times that I didn't handle it as well as I perhaps could have. There's no mistake about that. But children who are in this situation, in order to protect themselves emotionally, unfortunately need to cut off the safe parent that they know they have unconditional love from. And because my children know if they're rude to me or if they cut me off, my love for them is complete and without question. But just like the children align themselves with the bully in the schoolyard, my children needed to align themselves with the scary or dangerous parent and make sure that they kept him happy as a purely psychological method to keep their own selves safe. So I think that that's the dynamic that we're seeing here. And I've done a lot of reading on the issue over the last year and a half, and my understanding is it may not be until they're in their 20s that they really come to a full understanding of exactly what's happened to them. And obviously they're going to need a lot of help and support with that. And it's unfortunate because I was asking the mediators this morning in court that we start that process now. But unfortunately there's no mechanism or facilities in the Japanese legal system to give my children some emotional care as they go through this process. So unfortunately we're not really going to be able to start with that until, I guess, my daughter's an adult and she chooses to get some care for herself.
Do you know where they live now?
I actually do know where they are living. And
did you try physically to?
I have seen them on a few occasions. Some of them have been coincidences and some of them have been I thought they might be there, but every time I do, a very aggressive fax comes from my husband's lawyer warning me not to do that. And, many left-behind parents have been arrested for trying to see their children, and obviously that's something that I keep in my mind as well. We're really left with very few options. Yeah.
Okay, this is going live streaming. I don't know if you want to make a special appeal to your daughter in case she may see it in the future.
What I would say to my daughter is, and I've thought a lot about this, is it's quite possible that today, at this moment, she doesn't understand what I'm doing and why. But I really hope that the time that we've spent together as a family and in the future going forward, that she understands not only what I've done, but she's proud that I'm her mother and that I stood up for what I thought was the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you very much to everybody. It's okay, one more question? It's okay? Make it very short and not a statement, please.
Hello, my name is Thomas, and the question will be for the lawyer. As you very well know, there is a criminal law 224 in regards to abduction. How and why Japanese police and courts decides to prosecute one case and not the other, especially never prosecute the first abduction, but will always try to prosecute the second abduction or attempt of it, or even a mere visitation. Just that.
Thank you.
はい、日本では最初の連れ去りは今おっしゃった刑法224条に該当する行為であれば逮捕するし起訴するということです。224条に該当する行為というのは暴力、それから脅迫、それから騙したり甘い言葉を使って連れ去るという行為ですね。それに該当する行為であれば犯罪行為として扱うけれども、そうでない単なる連れ去り、今言ったような行為を伴わない単なる母親が子供を連れて最初に共同して生活しているうちから出るという行為については、その犯罪行為に当たらないというような解釈でやっているので、私たちはそこがちゃんと罰すべき法律を作るべきだということを今回の訴訟で訴えていきます。
So under the 224 of the Japanese Penal Code, as was mentioned, there is the situation as to whether it will be arrested or prosecuted under this as well. Under this particular part of the Japanese law, it will also be eligible or seen as a criminal offense if there is violence, threat, or if the abduction is conducted under false pretenses. So there are cases where the parental child abduction on the first instance is indeed taken as, arrested and prosecuted in the first case if it fits one of these particular three categories. However, at the moment, under the penal law, the interpretation is not applied that this is indeed a criminal offense if the child was abducted without such violence, false pretenses, and so on as well. Therefore, what we are calling for is for indeed this to be changed so that this first abduction will also be seen as a criminal offense even if these are not applicable.
Thank you very much, and thank you for attending this press conference, and good luck to you.